I was very impressed how they could somehow magically do this. Yeah.
Massimo's our hero.
Yeah, definitely.
Doctors at Bristol have come up with what they call a stem cell plaster that can fix heart problems in children. Live with us this morning, Professor of Congenital Heart Surgery at Bristol Heart Institute, Massimo Caputo, and also with us Lottie Stokes, mum of 13-year-old Louie, who might benefit from a stem cell plaster. Morning to you both.
Morning.
Morning.
Professor Caputo, if I could start with you first of all, could you explain for us in the most layman's terms that you can possible what is actually being done here and what we know about how it works?
So yes, in fact, having Louie in the studio today is great because he's now 14, I think, almost 14, and he had an operation. In fact, he had two operations, one when he was born and the second one when he was like 1 year of age. At that stage, we had to use lots of material like tubes, valves to reconstruct his heart because, you know, he was born with parts of the heart which were not quite developed. So you can imagine now he was like probably around 10 kilos at that time. And now he's a 14-year-old big handsome boy growing up, but he's still living on that material which we put when he was 1. And obviously, you can understand that material doesn't grow. That material tends to fail. In fact, the fact that he has lasted so long is great, actually. But we will need to come back, you know, in the future to replace that. So. The idea really comes from people like Lottie and you know, parents that are coming back to me and saying, look, we are fed up to see you over and over again. We don't want to see you. You know, you need to do something. So what we are trying to do here is to create a material which is a live tissue that can actually grow with the child and not fail. So this means they don't need to come over and over with this really operation, which, you know, are successful, but they are a terrible time for them, you know, stressful. They, you know, you have to understand open heart surgery is a stressful time for everyone.
So you're saying, so what used to happen in the past is actual sort of non-organic material had to be placed all over the heart to help sort things out, but you'd have to constantly go back to that as the person grew up. But now that this stem cell plaster injection, whatever we're going to call it, will actually grow with the person, and there's evidence that has happened. There's a young boy called Finley who's now 2, where this has worked, and you've observed this working.
Yes, that was a kind of case on compassionate base. Finley was really fighting for his life, and we used the same cells that we are using to create this new material to try to improve the function of his heart. And in fact, that works really. So in a way, that case is a good proof that the cells that we're using are safe, they're not rejected by the body, and they actually, in that case, helped. But the first thing we need to do is to prove safety of the material. So we are hoping to start a small clinical trial in around 2 years' time to prove safety of the material we're going to use.
Yes. Well, let's turn to you, Lottie, because, of course, this is all very real for you, because 13-year-old Louie might actually need something like this. What is the situation with Louie? What's up with his heart?
So Louie was born with transposition of the great arteries, pulmonary stenosis, and ventricular septal defect, which was an awful lot to get our heads around when he was born. Louie's had 2 open heart surgeries and further operations and procedures in between times to keep him going, to keep the parts going. Something like this, the stem cell plaster, would just be incredible. It would change our lives entirely.
And have you been told about how likely it is that this kind of treatment might be available for you? Because I read this morning that actually clinical trials need to start with this kind of surgery.
Yeah, I'm Louie's dad here. So this is all relatively new for us. Obviously, we've heard through everyone else in the media about things going on, and what it would do to help us, but more likely other families that have newborns that have got these similar kind of heart issues, is we've always had in the backs of our minds the knowledge that Louie has to have further surgery and further procedures, and it's an ongoing thing. We're always concerned about him. If he's playing football and he seems to be a bit slower than everyone else, is his heart performing as well as it should be?
Yeah.
Does he need to have something else? Having what Massimo's creating would mean that worry and that stress disappears significantly, because we wouldn't then have to worry about him having future surgeries, because the thing, everything grows as it should be. So it really does remove a huge amount of stress from parents' lives and the child.
Yeah, and I think Louie is there. Louie, do you mind me asking, how stressful have you found it, having to go back for these repeat surgeries? I mean, what kind of a burden would it be if you could have just one intervention that would then last a long while?
It would be really good, because I do get nervous and I do get stressed. I think everyone does. That's relatives, is friends or family to me. They all get stressed, and to me it would just mean the world, because I would just, loads of stress, loads of nerves would just be removed very quickly.
What did you think when you saw news of this, and that this could be an option for you?
I was very impressed how they could somehow magically do this.
Massimo's our hero.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, 3 cheers for Massimo, and for you lot as well. I really appreciate it, you coming on to speak to us.